Hit record. There we go. Excellent, excellent. Welcome, everybody. It is May 1st. This year's flying by, right? Holy Kawasaki. Anyway, welcome, everybody. This is a pretty exciting time right now. A lot of change in real estate last year, and this year continues to bring change and to our industry. And so we have a very special guest. She's actually Senior Vice President of Broker Operations for all of EXP. And she's so humble. I'm telling you, she's super accomplished. I mean, she was the president-elect of Arizona Association of Realtors. She's an instructor, speaker, trainer. And I am talking about the one, the only Holly Mabery. And she is the right, like side to side with Leo Perea. Those two are just absolute rock stars leading this company through all this change. And so I want to welcome everybody, but I want to get going. It's 2 minutes after already. We're burning time here. Got stuff to do. And she's actually at a regional rally right now. She stepped out, hopped on the cell phone. I mean, that's senior leadership, you guys, to come to our team meeting. How amazing of a company is that, right? We're 84,000, 85,000 agents strong. And she's like, yeah, I'll hop out. So anyway, Holly, thank you so much for doing that. We're going to probably explain some things regarding clear cooperation policy and what's going on and lawsuits and Compass and MLSs and all this stuff that you've probably been hearing about if you're in the game for about 30 minutes. And then we're going to have about 10 to 15 of Q&A because I'm sure you got some questions. All right. So I'm going to step aside. Holly, I may interject a little bit here and there, but man, please, why don't you start off with explaining what the heck is clear cooperation policy? Why is it a big deal? Why are there lawsuits? What is going on? Did we lose her? She was here. Oh no.
It looks like she fell off.
Yeah.
All right, she'll hop back on here. She's up in Seattle. We got a regional rally. That'll give me an opportunity to plug our regional rally here in Northern California. Did you know we had one? Did you know? Did you know? We have one. Actually, June 5th. And tickets are selling fast. So make sure you lock in your ticket. Don't be a typical realtor and wait till the last minute. Go ahead and get your ticket now. It's okay. Secure your seat.
And Colorado's rally is Friday.
There you go. There you go. Colorado's Friday. So they're all over. And in fact, let's see, do we have her back? Oh, there's Holly. Okay, Holly's back.
Hey guys, so great to be with you, and sorry about that incoming phone call. That's the technology and cell phone, so I apologize.
Well, we teed it up. It was probably my best intro ever. You missed it, but
usually is. Well, thanks so much for having me. So yeah, there's been a whole lot going on in the real estate space. I guess I would call it a little bit of turbulence, but this is what I want you to know more than anything. Even with turbulence, we have your back and we have a vision of where we're going. We understand that the market is going to shift a lot. And I want to go back to last year with the NAR apocalypse, if you will, right? We had everybody that suddenly we had to change our business practice. We had to start using buyer broker agreements if you weren't already. And that was a big shift, seeing compensation coming out of the MLS. But you guys handled it beautifully. And what we continued to do last year is we wanted to articulate not only value, but reasoning and education to you in such a way that you could do that with your client at any turn. And so most recently, we just upgraded our forms again. We have the single property buyer broker, we have the non-exclusive buyer broker, and we just released an exclusive buyer broker agreement. And those are all available to you in zip forms. We had a lot of agents asking, hey, would you do an exclusive buyer broker? I don't like using my association form. And we said, yes, absolutely. So we got to work on that. And we're proud of how it turned out because it's very conversational. And so a little pro tip, the way we're designing our forms is if you see it for the first time, it's literally a prompt for conversation with you and the client who's sitting across from you. At each kind of bullet point is laid out in such a way of like, okay, let's walk through the flow. Because when we sat down to write the forms, I was like, all right, if I'm in front of a seller and I'm wanting to earn their trust, what does our listing agreement need to look like? If I'm in front of a buyer, what does that need to look like? Especially if I'm meeting them for the first time, knowing that, hey, we're still getting sign calls. We might get his online lead, all of that. So that's the way our forms are designed, to be very conversational and really remove friction for what you need to do with a client. So we had everything that happened last year with NAR, and you guys handled it. It was beautiful. Most recently, we had a lot of conversations around clear cooperation. And what clear cooperation is a rule that came into effect in 2020 by the National Association that required within 1 day of public marketing. So this could be a sign in the yard, this could be an email blast, this could be like something on Instagram or social media that basically says, hey, I've got this house listed. Great. It also has to be in the MLS. Well, that doesn't seem like a big deal until you start to kind of break down what's happening behind the scenes. We had a lot of brokerages that were holding inventory back. They weren't sharing their best stuff because they wanted to see if they could sell it in-house. That's why the rule came forward. Well, we've got a company still continuing to try to do that and trying to double dip. Now, look, I don't have a problem with selling your own listings. I did that a lot when I was in practice myself. But the challenge is what's in the best interest of all parties. And what we're seeing right now in the challenge of clear cooperation is, particularly this one company, is not being honest with the seller as far as, hey, you may not get the best price. You may not get the best terms and conditions. And oh, by the way, you're limiting your buyer pool. So the National Association of Realtors has been under fire for the last 9 months, if you will, around clear cooperation. There have been some groups who have wanted it completely repealed. Leo and I have been very articulate about, no, we think that the clear cooperation should be there. And maybe some minor modifications, but it's a good thing, not just for sellers, but for buyers. When you think of buyers being restricted to the market, we didn't want that to happen. So that was really important.
Yeah.
Then
I mean, there's a lot of things. My thing, there's a.
And so with that respect, NAR, their executive committee, took under advisement everybody's opinion. And they came out in March with a rule that said, okay, we're not going to change clear cooperation, but what we are going to do is we are going to create a new category. This new category is called pre-IDX marketing. You still have to be an MLS. You still have to expose the property that way, but you have to have this required form signed by a seller that says, hey, by not going on IDX, you may not get the best price, terms, and conditions, nor the exposure you deserve. Well, IDX is basically every other broker website, like your website, your personal website through KV Core or Boomtown or whatever it is that you use. That's IDX. Zillow and Redfin, those are usually virtual office websites or VOW, a higher level website, but sometimes they're IDX. And so it would basically exclude marketing from those websites. So there was a lot of confusion around that. Well, then 2 weeks later, you see Zillow come out and say, look, if you are going to list a property and only put it in your private network, but still publicly market it. So I'm going to put it on my personal website and I'm going to publicly market it, but it's not in the MLS. Zillow basically said, you will never be on Zillow. And why is that important? Well, this one competitor, they are claiming that they should be able to put anything they want on their website, publicly market it, but not be accountable for price reductions or days on market, and not have the broadest buyer pool accessible to that property. That's a problem. And so we've seen a lot of pushback. Most recently, a lawsuit filed in, I'm actually in Seattle right now, so Northwest MLS. And so Compass has filed a lawsuit against Northwest MLS for their practices. We'll see what happens. I think Northwest MLS will prevail, but that's my 2 cents. I think the problem in all of this is what's best for the seller and what's best for the buyer. And so Leo and I, in talking with all of leadership, really decided our focus needs to be on you, the communication we have with our buyers and sellers, and how we educate them. Nothing else matters. That's our focus. So we just released a seller advisory, and this form is designed to be used for those sellers who don't go to full market. It's any seller that doesn't go to full market. So you go out and you take a listing tonight. You're not going to put it live on the MLS until maybe Friday afternoon because the open house is Saturday, but they're getting the carpets cleaned tomorrow. But the neighbor next door goes, oh my gosh, I know that's a realtor's car. I bet they listed their house, and walks over next tomorrow, says, I want to buy the house. My parents need to live closer to us so we can take care of them. Can we please buy your house? And your seller calls you and says, you know what, Matt, I love these neighbors. I love their parents. I want them to live next door. They're going to make me a fair price. Will you just do the paperwork? Yes. The answer is yes. Your seller's making an educated decision. That's when we would use that form. We would just say, I'm going to disclose to you, we didn't go on the open market. You might have left money on the table. You might not have gotten the terms and conditions, but you made a heart sale. And that's important. So I want to make sure that you are very, very comfortable. That's it. That's all I need you to do. At the end of the day, I want to empower you to take care of your clients and meet them where you're at. And you have always done that. So don't stop. These are just more tools in your toolbox to have a better conversation, because there's so much noise happening around us that if you and I can cut through it, like, you know, an adventurer through the jungle with a machete, we're just chopping through the bureaucracy and red tape. That's what we're going to do. So that's why we have the seller advisory that's now available in SkySlope for you. We've also got training and everything on our EXP toolkits. So if you go to exptoolkit.com/seller, you'll get all of our toolkits, the buyer toolkit, the growth toolkit, all of the training, the forms. Oh, by the way, guys, we just released the listing presentation. That's available this week. It's something that we're announcing at all the rallies. So that's kind of everything in a nutshell. I'm going to pause. What questions do you have?
Real quick, what was that website again? Let's get it typed up.
Yeah, for sure. It's exptoolkit.com/seller.
Okay. Let's get that in the, somebody post. Okay, good.
Thanks, Jackie.
So Holly, the Northwest MLS, from what I understand, is one of the biggest MLSs in the country, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty impactful.
Yep.
And for them to take the stance, from what I understand, initially, you know, Leo and you have been on top of this kind of from the beginning, and realizing what Compass has been kind of putting out in their marketing. And it's one thing, as you said, to have the pre-marketing and things of that nature, or holding it off based on certain situations for sellers. And every brokerage does it to an extent for sellers that need it in special cases, right? I think our percentage of sales last year as a result from our exclusives was like 2 or 3%, right?
It was very, very minimal.
1%,
So
2%.
yeah, we do have an exclusive platform, and that was by design. We created it a couple of years ago, EXP Access. And what's important about it is we actually did it as a response because we had MLSs go down. They were hacked, the Rapatoni hack of the summer of 2023. And so we never wanted to have any challenge for our seller getting access to publish their property for sale. So we have a direct feed to Zillow, Realtor.com, all of that. We created EXP Access for that. So if you've got someone who is Taylor Swift or luxury or, you know, whatever it might be, you can put them in EXP Access. Also, what I love about EXP Access, just as a side note, our commercial listings are going in there, as well as our international listings. So we're really looking to play the long game of giving you as much viable inventory as possible, in addition to what you get on your local MLS.
So a couple things. So our percentage of sales going through this, what's the new branded name? It's EXP.
It's EXP Access.
Access. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, we're 2-3%, whereas Compass is marketing, and you look at their stats, they're over 30%, I believe, in regards to their sales were, you know, double-ended through the non MLS marketed, or, you know, coming soon type, they call it exclusives, I guess.
Right.
So obviously it is a huge part of their business model. And that's part of the argument we're making is, yeah, there's certain, like you mentioned, Taylor Swift, she would want to have it private and kept off the MLS and all that stuff. Of course, you're going to have those, somebody working for the FBI, whatever. But you're not going to have it at 30+%, 30% of your total sales.
Yeah.
And
Well,
it's,
and just real quickly, like how many of you are working with investors? Just throw up your hands. Yeah. So we all work with investors who love off market because they can, in theory, get a better deal. Well, if I've got a seller who's like, I'm not making these repairs, I'm not replacing the roof, this is not going to go finance, I need a cash sale and I need it today. Okay. I've got investors that would love to buy it. This is where we would use that seller advisory form. Again, it's just a protection because we know that one size does not fit all in this market. You and I adapt to the client who's in front of us and we make sure we customize their experience. This is a tool for your toolbox.
yeah. And to give a little background for those that may not know this already, the reason, like we could totally compete against Compass is the one kind of in question, we already have our own back end system, right? That
Yeah.
Holly's
Yeah.
mentioned. We could go that route, but what would happen, because we're number one in units nationwide and other companies would follow suit, is you start creating silos or portals, if you will. And what happens there is, for a seller to get full access to the marketplace, they would have to eventually probably pay each one of these portals or silos to get exposure in all the different big brokerages and so on. This is very akin to what happens in Europe, where I know Leo gives an example. It's not Europe, but Belize. He was selling his parents' house in Belize, and it took an inordinate amount of time. I think it was a year or something.
3 years. It
Was it
took
3
3
years?
years to sell the property.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
it's insane.
and they had to like tweak the words to get SEO to have it show up on page one, like all this extra stuff and pay for extra, different marketing and different portals and silos. And so when you have an MLS, let's face it, we actually have the best system in the world in regards to selling properties with these MLS systems and clear cooperation. What Compass is trying to do is corner the market for the first 30, 60 days, whatever, and using it as a marketing aspect that this is for the benefit of the seller, when in reality, the seller may not be fully aware that they're not getting fully exposed to all the eyeballs that they could be. And so Leo was talking with Zillow, and you correct me if I'm wrong on this, Holly, but he just said, hey, and I think Zillow was kind of leading the way in this, and Leo, looking ahead and being the leader that he is, and Holly as well, said, you know what, we're going to get on board with what Zillow's doing in the aspect that if you don't put it on the MLS within a certain amount of time, because Zillow pulls from the MLS, right, through the IDX feed, you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't hold it off for 60 days and not hold it out to all the other realtors in full exposure and then go, well, our plan didn't work, so we're going to now default put it on the MLS for everybody else. And it's like, that's not really playing ball. Go
Well,
ahead, Holly.
and when you look at the MLS, and my grandfather started the MLS in my area
Wow.
back in the 70s. Yeah, he brought in the realtor organization, all of that. He actually used to use 3x5 cards and go and had a meeting once a week where they went and had coffee that became the MLS meetings and pass out these 3x5 cards to the other offices so everybody knew what was available and then how to show it. I don't want to go back to 3x5 cards. I certainly don't want to go back to multiple websites to register. When you look at the MLS, it's a broker cooperative where we've all agreed on a baseline, a minimum set of information, a minimum how we input it, and how we agree to operate. That's unique in all the world. And the opportunity to actually do that consistently is astounding. Now, yeah, every MLS has minor tweaks, whether you can do coming soon, whether you have to be in the MLS this afternoon, but then it doesn't have to go live for a couple of days. Everybody does it different. So knowing your local rules are really, really important. And I want to empower you that the more you know, the better advocate you become for your sellers. And it's a flex. If you go and you sit with the seller this afternoon or even this weekend and you talk about this broker cooperative and how we work and how we market and what it means to the seller, it not only helps them as a seller, it'll help them as a buyer. And I think that's the other key thing on all of this is if we don't help our sellers up front, we will never be able to help them as buyers. So that's why we've been strong advocates. We're looking and playing the long game as far as what we anticipate in protecting real estate across North America, particularly US and Canada. But then also, what tools do you need? So the EXP toolkits, I can't stress them strongly enough. Take a look at them. We've got lots of things in there that you can customize. But also, as you're going out, whatever turbulence is happening in the ether around you, I want you to be so solid in the tools that you have for the company that you're with and what we can do for you. Now, this is my favorite ask of everybody on this call. Would you please, as you're using these tools, the toolkit, the forms, whatever it might be, give me feedback. If there's something you're like, I'd really like it if we had X, or if these words could be changed, would you please send me a message in Workplace? That's how we make change. And I'm so happy to take real world practitioner. Like, I was in front of a client, this was really hard or difficult. Cool. I'll role play it with you. We'll look at training. We'll look at whatever you need to either improve what we've given you or how we can overcome those challenges.
Cool. So I think today was a big day in regards to the Northwest MLS saying, hey, Zillow, or hey, Compass, you need to actually have your listings posted on the MLS, or if you continue the route you're going, those listings will not have access to our MLS for the life that they're listed with Compass, right?
Correct.
And Zillow's done the same, and EXP, we signed the agreement in agreement with Zillow on the same. So
yeah,
some big stuff going on. We can open it up for questions. You can put questions in the chat if you'd like, or you can raise your hand if you do have some curiosities or questions that you'd like to ask Holly. It's quite a treat to be able to have her take some time out for us. It's quite an honor. Appreciate that. So everybody, you must be clear, just clear as mud, huh? You got it all down. Nope, no worries. Okay, Courtney.
Thanks, Holly. I have a question regarding Zillow. I had read something with this new change that they also potentially be switching gears to where agents might have to pay to have more exposure on their site rather than them just going straight through the IDX from the MLS. Have you heard anything about that? Like, otherwise your listings will be not very, won't have much of a presence.
Yeah, I haven't heard that at all. I mean,
Okay.
Zillow at the end of the day is a business model, but extracting more money from agents, I know that is not high on our list at all. And we have a direct line to lobby them. So we do that frequently, believe it or not, when we disagree with something.
Okay.
Yeah, you and Leo, from what I understand, are pretty connected with the top of Zillow and have
Leo,
regular conversations.
let us be clear. Leo had, if you ever get access to his Rolodex, oh my gosh, that guy knows everybody in the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing, when you go on a listing appointment, all of you, it's very important that you should know the membership number of your board of realtors and so how many agents are members, right? Because if they bring up the aspect of coming soon or what other competitors are doing by holding off the MLS, or, oh, it's, the exclusive sounds great. Well, you should be able to tell them that, you know what, we have a membership base of 15,000 in our board of realtors that have access to the MLS. And if you were to go with a different company that is not going to post in the MLS, you're going to lose out on the exposure to 15,000 realtors. Let's say they only have one buyer each for your house. That's 15,000. Right? I mean, it's a lot of buyers that you're losing out. And we know by sheer numbers that if there's more eyeballs on a house, there's more likelihood of having an offer, let alone multiple offers. Multiple offers, I can bid, work them against each other and bid the price up for you, Mr. Seller. So I just want you to be really aware of what's out there and what's happening right now in the industry. Anything you want to add to that, Holly, or take away?
No, I think so. Let's talk about leverage. I love leveraging the MLS and how many people are agents in your MLS, but then EXP exclusives, because we have a direct feed from EXP Access. Old habits die hard. EXP Access. We have a feed from the MLS. So every listing that shows up on your MLS from an EXP agent will also be in our database. So that's 65,000 agents across the US.
Yeah.
It's a
huge.
both and world. So I really want you to leverage. And that's one of the things when you look at the EXP listing agreement, we talk about EXP Access as just a prompt to help you educate sellers that, hey, your listings are going to go here as well. And these are some of the most active people in the industry selling property.
That's right. And when you're meeting with your seller on a listing appointment, you need to educate them as well that there's actually three types of buyers out there. Maybe you all know this, maybe you don't. But there's buyers that are in town, right? There's buyers that are out of town, and then there's buyers that are working with another agent. And so we're going to market to all three of these buyers. The MLS is super powerful in that regard. And then I would go into different IDX feeds and so on. So, you want to be prepared with these talking points if you do get these questions that come up from the seller, because, so a lot of them are reading the news and hearing about lawsuits and what different things going on. And there's a lot of spin out there. There's a lot of marketing going on.
It's crazy. I was at Easter Sunday with my mom and dad and sitting with my dad, and he goes, so what is this lawsuit over visibility? And he's an attorney, like,
Yeah.
When in doubt, he's like, well, Zillow says. He always would throw that at me. Okay. And so I had the whole conversation about like what we believe and why we do this thing. And it's really, really important as we go forward. So having these honest conversations is critical. I think as we go forward, don't forget how you bring it back to a seller and buyer. What's in it for them? Because at the end of the day, they want to buy a house, they want to sell a house. They want to take care of their family. So all of this noise, all of this turbulence that you and I are aware of, they have no idea. They don't really want to know how the sausage is made. They just want to know that you are competent enough and you understand what's happening enough to explain it in such a way they go, okay, I trust what Matthew's saying. I'm good.
Yeah. And I think another key point on why these forms are being formulated and have rolled out is we're playing the long game, as Holly said. And that's the aspect that we see potentially in the future with this litigious society and everything. Sellers will wise up at some point and go, well, wait a minute. I think I left money on the table doing that, putting it through the exclusives and not getting, just opening it up to Compass, but nobody else. I think that was a mistake. And boy, did they really have a slick marketing campaign where it sounded good, but I think I left money on the table and I'm going to cry foul. Right. And so lawsuits.
There's already a seller that formerly with Compass who is claiming that she was about to leave $100,000 on the table. And that's making the rounds on social media. Yeah. So I want you to be aware of what the noise is out there. So if you are challenged by someone who says, well, how do I know you're going to protect me? Well, let's talk about all your options, because you are the ultimate decision maker. I help give you the information for you to make the final decision for you and your family. That's all that matters.
That's awesome. Well, hey, we brought this to you because we want you to. Oh, go ahead, Don.
I had a question. Holly, I was under the impression that several years ago we were working on making a national MLS available to us because we're one brokerage nationwide, kind of uniquely in the brokerage space. Is that still something that's in the works? In other words, we would be able to search and access any of the MLSs as an EXP agent because we're one brokerage.
So we can't search any MLS because even though we're one brokerage, you have to have a subscription membership to that MLS for access to all the information. What we did do, Don, is created EXP Access. So we download all of the EXP listings from that MLS so you can search all EXP listings nationally. And that's what's available to you right now.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
You bet.
However, on that note, isn't there an aspect of an international MLS that EXP is still somewhat?
Yeah, and again, I go back to EXP Access. So I know Glenn, especially his work on the international side, you get into some of these countries like Mexico did not have an MLS that was
Egypt?
national. Egypt, and so they're looking at a lot of different technology to potentially launch. Launching an MLS is an expensive endeavor. So we're looking at, okay, how can we use EXP Access? How can we leverage what's happening locally so we are supporting our agents where they're at? And also, we want to be thoughtful about market disruption. Like, I don't mind being a disruptor, but not when it takes away from your business.
Absolutely. Well, like I was saying, we wanted to bring, and if you have any other questions, raise your hand or type in the chat here, but we wanted to bring you, straight from the horse's mouth, as they say, not, bad terminology, but anyway, you know what I mean? So, straight from the top, so you could hear what's going on right now, cutting edge, how EXP is looking out for us as agents, protecting us, coming out with forms, keeping us out of the courtroom, all of that stuff. And then keeping you informed on why they're doing it and what's kind of some of the background and what's really going on. So, really appreciate you stepping away from the regional rally. Holly, what is the website to buy tickets to see all the regional rallies? Isn't it EXP Toolkit something?
I want to say it's regional rally, expregionalrally.com. But there is an EXP toolkit for regional rallies. So exptoolkit.com/rally or regional rally. It should be there as well. So
Okay, there it is. I
yeah,
think
thanks,
Blake
Blake.
just put it in there.
Yeah, so if you haven't hit a rally, we've got a whole bunch coming up the next 2 weeks. I think somebody said Denver's happening Friday. I will be there. I'll be in Vegas tomorrow. So and then I'll be in Atlanta next week. So really excited to hopefully meet you in person and connect in that way.
Yep. Thank you so much. June 5th, you guys get your tickets now. It is selling.
Oh yeah,
They are
Sacramento,
selling.
definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah. Well, I don't see any other questions or hands raised. Thank you so much. I'll let you get back into the regional rally. Thank you so much, Holly.
Thanks, friends. Bye for now.
All right. Take care, you
Thanks,
guys.
Holly.
Now, real quick, Don Yoakum is going to be running the meeting, I believe, next Wednesday, correct, Don? You want to kind of...
On May 7th, right?
Oh, okay.
Is that the 7th?
Yes. Yep.
Okay,
Today's
yeah.
the 1st.
So, yes, next week I'm going to be interviewing Amy Stockberger,
Oh,
and she is consistently top 50 production teams in the nation, just a force of nature. And what is really unique about her is that she's running a highly successful production team that is quite profitable. She's been able to do that by referral. And so a lot, just incredible nuggets that we get when we interview her. So don't miss that. It would be a great one for you to invite guests to as well.
yeah.
So it'll be super value add. Amy is actually not an EXP agent. So, people that you might bring that are non-EXP shouldn't feel any anxiousness about listening in as well.
So, Don, she does, just so people know, so you can really kind of edify her, she does 400 to 600 deals a year, her team, correct?
Yeah.
And it's all by
closer to
referral.
6.
Huh?
Yeah,
Closer to 600 by referral, which is like super rare. That just like doesn't happen. Usually it's buying leads and all that to get that numbers, right?
Yes, and she's done some things. I listened to one of her interviews the other day, which is going to give me some great questions for you guys next week, but some things that I had never heard. And I was like, whoa.
That's saying a lot.
Right? My first full year was 1990. So I was thinking I had heard pretty much everything. Anyway, yeah, no, she's a treat, and it's really interesting to watch the dynamics of the marketplace right now, because the big production teams, as a rule, are really struggling and fighting for even making a profit. She's running a 40% net margin.
Wow.
Because she's not spending a dime on, well, she spends a dime, but she spends relative to her volume, she's spending a minuscule amount on marketing.
And gets a huge return. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
don't
So-
miss. You got a week to edify it and invite guests. Let's pump this up because she really is a dynamo, and you're gonna want to. I mean, shoot, if Don's saying he's heard stuff that he'd never heard before, just that alone, you should show up and be like, "What in the world is she doing?" So Amy Stockburger, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You can look her up. I'm sure you'll find her all over the place.
That's awesome.
All right. See you
Have an
guys next
amazing-
week. Hey,
Yep.
bring a guest next week. Huh?
That's right. Let's do it.
Let's
Let's
do it.
pack it out.
All right, Courtney, there's your smile. I was wondering when you first came on, you were kind of
She's focused. Have a great rest of your Wednesday, you guys.
Good to
God
see
bless.
you.
Bye-bye.
Hi to you too, Dawn.